We all know the story of how the city of Los Angeles got their water, right? How a guy named Mulholland and another guy named Eaton worked to take the water they needed from up north in the Owens River Valley. How they bought up the water rights and how they built an aqueduct that took water over 200 miles to a thirsty city. Did you ever hear about the bombings and the kidnappings and the stealing of people's life savings? About other people going to prison? My name is Philip Scorza, and I'd like to welcome you to our show, Points of Interest, the Water Wars. If you're from these parts, you've probably at least seen pictures of this waterfall, this man-made waterfall where the water cascades off the mountain and goes down and underneath the freeway. On November 5, 1913, 40,000 people stood at this spot and dedicated this aqueduct. There it is, take it, says Mulholland. This place is even prettier at night when they turn the colored lights on. If you've heard about that, then you've probably heard about how the St. Francis Dam collapsed and killed 500 people. But here's something you might not know about. It's the reason the St. Francis Dam was built in the first place. Los Angeles needed a place to store water. Mulholland found a narrow canyon called San Francisco Canyon, which just happens to be in our backyard. It's there that he built a dam and 2 powerhouses, and it's there that on the night of March 12, 1928, the dam broke, killing over 400 people. I'm here to meet a couple of friends of mine. This is Dr. Alan Pollack, who happens to be the president of the Santa Clarita Valley Historical Society. And with him is Miss Dianne Erskine-Hellrigel, who serves on the board of directors of the Historical Society. Dianne and Alan are trying to get Congress to pass legislation making the site of the St. Francis Dam a national memorial and a national monument. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
We started working on this about 4 years ago. Last year, we were lucky enough to be able to get it passed unanimously in the House. We're working with Congressman Knight. And this year, we've reintroduced it in the House. And we're really hoping that the Senate will pick it up and pass this wonderful bill.
4 years ago, I took a trip out to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I had the opportunity to visit the National Memorial for the Johnstown flood. And after going to that site, I read about that flood and saw so many similarities to the flood that occurred there in 1889 in our St. Francis Dam flood. And then I was thinking, they have a national memorial, visitor center, documentary film, rangers. And what do we have here after 90 years at the St. Francis Dam site? Absolutely nothing. And then I decided it would be why don't we do that here?
Well, we all know that none of this, the St. Francis Dam, none of this would have been necessary if it hadn't been for the water wars. And Alan and Dianne are going to join me. We're going to get in my car. We're going to drive up to the Owens Valley, and they're going to give me the who, what, where, when, why, and how of the water wars.
Let's go.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Let's hit the road.
For about 3 years, from 1924 through 1927, a group of people stopped the flow of water to Los Angeles by bombing the aqueduct. It happened near Lone Pine, Independence, Big Pine, and Bishop, up and down the Owens Valley.
Here we are.
Hey, there we are. There's the 3 of us. Oh, wait a minute. I should stay on the road, shouldn't
He's
I?
watching the movies, not watching the road. And we're risking our lives in this car.
We're going to die.
We're gonna die. Look at this snow.
Okay, I just gotta make sure I don't run off the road here. Nothing like filming your own accident.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
All right, we're here at the Alabama gates. This is the opening salvo of the water wars. The first time a bomb went off. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I would like to consider this kind of the ground zero of the water war, the Alabama gates. A group of about 40 people came down from Bishop in 11 swift-moving vehicles. They had their license plates off of the cars, their lights extinguished.
Oh, really?
They came out here to the Alabama gates.
Okay.
They placed a 500-pound bunch of dynamite in the small tunnel, probably the middle tunnel back there, underneath the spillway gates, and they completely wrecked
blew it all up.
They blew up the whole spillway gate, and for 50 feet above and below the gates here, they damaged the concrete lining of the aqueduct.
So water is just rushing out. In other words, we're not getting water down to LA. We're getting water in the valley.
Yeah, I mean, the gate was completely destroyed.
Okay, so this was shot number one in the water wars.
Right. And a couple of the suspects, they think, was probably the Watterson brothers, Mark and Wilfred.
Okay.
And there she be.
Oh my goodness.
Any money?
There's an Indio County Register newspaper there, too.
Yeah. The same men that brought this bank into town are the same men that robbed it and spent the rest of their days in San Quentin.
Who are they? Their last name wasn't Watterson.
Watterson brothers.
They are, yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Are they buried out here anywhere?
I honestly don't know. Oh.
The Wattersons.
Yeah.
What do you know about them?
They must have been bankers or something. And then LADWP came in about the farmland, and then
What do they do that for?
That is so cool.
some fool wanted the water. So most of these people were homesteaders and farmers, and they sold out to him, and then when these guys robbed their own bank, got set up for it. Anyway, and once that happened, then the homesteaders were
That guy killed everything.
Yeah. Whatever was left of it for them was pretty much null.
So tell us where we are.
We are standing in Bishop, California, in one of my very favorite places, the Laws History Museum. And it's absolutely gorgeous. All these things have been moved in here from Bishop and the surrounding areas. And we're here to talk about L.C. Hall.
Now, who was L.C. Hall?
L.C. Hall was an attorney, and he was friends with George Watterson.
Okay.
And George Watterson and he were on the side of Los Angeles. And there was quite a division in this area where there were a huge number of people that were led by George Watterson's nephews, Mark and Wilfred Watterson, and they were against the aqueduct, and they were leading all kinds of espionage against Los Angeles. Elsie was sitting in a restaurant in Bishop having a meal, and a mob of men that were friends with the nephews of George Watterson came in there, and they grabbed him, they choked him, they beat him up, they dragged him out of the restaurant, and they held him captive for days.
Oh, okay.
And eventually they let him go. But yeah.
This was sort of the beginning
This was the beginning of the division between the people.
So in November of 1924, there was another attack on the Alabama gates. Tell us about this one.
This one, we know that Mark and Wilfred Watterson were involved, and they were probably the leaders. So a group of 70 people come down in a caravan of cars and trucks, and they decide to take the spillway over, and they occupied it. And they opened up the spillway gates so that the water flowed out into the valley surrounding us and not into LA. The local sheriff orders them to leave, and they say, no, we're not leaving until our grievances are met.
So they opened the gates and all the water's running out. There are basically like 70 people.
Yeah, it started as 70 people, but it grew to 100 people. And all sorts of people like physicians, lawyers, even a minister came and stayed here. He said, I need to stay with my congregation. His whole congregation was there. Some of the local merchants were here, and even a deputy sheriff participated.
So it's like one big party taking place.
Yeah, the guys were taking 24-hour shifts guarding the place, and their wives would come here and bring them food. And this happened over about a 4-day period.
What did LA do?
Remember, the water was just flowing out of here. It cost LA $10,000 a day. So after 4 days, the president of the Clearinghouse Association of Los Angeles offered to get 3 judges from the state to mediate the conflict.
3 impartial people.
Yeah. This was satisfactory to the people here, and they agreed. So they closed the gates, and they left. All through 1925 and 1926, the negotiations dragged on, with the Clearinghouse of Los Angeles and 3 impartial judges on LA side, and the Watterson brothers, the bankers, on the Owens Valley side. But all throughout this haggling, there were multiple instances of sabotage of the aqueduct, probably from disgruntled ranchers. Finally, more than 2 years later, in the early morning hours of May 27, 1927, the largest blast yet did major damage to the aqueduct in a place called No Name Canyon.
I think I'm going to leave my coat here. Good idea. Thank you. Where the heck are we?
We are in a place called No Name Canyon, and we are 1.25 miles away from Pearsonville, California, 60 miles north of Mojave.
Okay.
And we are in the spot where the biggest blast occurred.
Okay, so after 2 years of negotiations, where nothing is happening, the people in the Owens Valley here have decided that they've had enough, and they go back to blowing up things and destroying property. So tell me about this place, No Name Canyon.
On the night of the blast, there's 2 aqueduct employees up here, Tom Spratt and his nephew Lou Spratt. They're sitting in a hut, presumably a caretaker's hut for the place. 10 men come riding up the canyon. They're masked. And they come to the hut, they take the 2 men hostage, and they bring them up the canyon to a safe place. 4 of the men take them out there. Oh. The rest of the men set dynamite under this siphon that's behind us here, and they blow it up. After the men were done with the blowing up the thing, they released the 2 aqueduct employees, and the masked men rode out into the night.
That's it, huh?
That's it.
So the war is back on again, in other words.
Yes, it was.
Big Pine, here we are.
1756.
Yes, 1756.
West Crocker Avenue
In Big Pine.
in Big Pine. We're on our way to powerhouse number 3.
So let me see if I got this straight. First they bomb No Name Canyon down south, and then 24 hours later, somebody comes up here to Big Pine Power Plant number 3 and they bomb this place, right?
Right. They ripped out 60 feet of the aqueduct with the explosion here. Los Angeles was livid. They threatened to send 600 policemen down here, and there was an editorial in the Times the next day advocating that no deal be made with the terrorists and saboteurs. No one less than Reginaldo Del Valle, our local guy, called the bombing outlawry, and he said that local outlaws were trying to get the city to buy at exorbitant prices ranch lands in the valley here.
Did any of this ever happen? Did LA pay exorbitant prices for the land? Did 600 policemen come up here?
Nah, I don't know that there's any evidence that ever happened.
So we're talking about 2 bombings within 24 hours at different canyons.
Exactly. 2 different bombings in 2 different canyons within 24 hours, and no one was ever prosecuted.
Here we are, June 5th, 1927, where the last salvo, the last bomb goes off in the water wars between the city of Los Angeles and the Owens Valley, Owens River Valley here, at a place called Cottonwood Powerhouse in Cottonwood Canyon. But we're about 12 miles south of Lone Pine. Tell us what happened here.
All right, so it's 1:30 in the morning, and a big blast goes off back behind us here in the aqueduct. It blows out these concrete walls of the aqueduct right next to that power plant, and as you can see, right next to employee homes of the power plant.
Right over there.
In spite of that, the buildings were not damaged, no injuries took place, and there were no witnesses.
They didn't see anything.
As usual.
As usual. So how did LA react to this one?
So LA, they hire guards. They arm them with Thompson machine guns, and they put 24-hour guarding on the aqueduct.
Okay.
But again, nobody was ever arrested for this or caught. But they was suspected that it was the guys that did the no-name bombing that did this one too.
So as far as LA is concerned, this thing could go on and on because you cannot place guards over 250 miles worth of aqueduct then.
Well, as proven as we've told this story, they just kept doing it.
They just kept doing it.
In spite of whatever LA tried to do.
Right.
So the war is on. Let's see what happens next.
Let's see.
Okay, we're here in the cemetery in Bishop, and we have found the grave site of George Watterson, who died in 1935. The Watterson family was on both sides of the issue. Tell us about the Wattersons.
It's so true. They were on both sides. George Watterson was the one that sided with Los Angeles, and everything that they did was legal. And he was against his nephews, who were organizing all kinds of things against the LA city. They were blowing up in multiple locations the aqueduct. They
also kidnapping Elsie Hall.
Right. They also kidnapped Elsie Hall.
What was their business?
They had 5 banks.
The bankers.
Right. They were bankers, and they had 5 banks, and most of the money in the Inyo was coming to the Wattersons.
Inyo County banks, right.
And so they were very well respected, but what the people didn't know is the Wattersons were embezzling this money.
How did that happen? What is that?
Well, they were taking money. They were taking draws off of the bank, and when people were selling their land for the aqueduct, they would take that money in, but they weren't keeping it for the people. They were pulling this money out for themselves. They pulled out business money. They pulled out the aqueduct money. They pulled out people's life savings. And on August 4th, 1927, Mr. Wood, who was within the banking system, he was an auditor.
For the state of California.
Right. And what he did is he went through some of their records and he found some discrepancies. And so he actually closed the bank. When they started actually doing the investigation, they found out that the 2 Watterson brothers actually took out more than $800,000 in funds. They took everything they could, stocks, bonds, you name it.
They basically ruined all their neighbors.
Right. And the Wattersons were arrested, they were tried, and they were sent to San Quentin for 10 years.
Whoa.
And and so it was really something else. And so George, who was originally the bad guy, according to the locals, because they thought that he was siding only with Los Angeles and they were taking their land and they were this, that, and another thing. But it turns out the real bad guys were his 2 nephews.
And we can see by the grave that George died in 1935. I presume his nephews were in jail at this time.
They were still in jail.
They were still in jail serving their sentence.
Yeah, they were still in jail.
So the thing that put this whole conflict to rest only had to do with the Wattersons going to prison.
That's right. Yeah.
That ended.
Who knows how long the charade would have lasted?
It could have gone on and on.
Could have gone on and on, even farther than
Sure.
that.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, George.
The thing that interests me the most about this story is the human element, is the drama, the angst. It's almost like a Shakespearean play. You have a very small community here, even though it's spread out over many miles. And these people work together, play together, socialize. They go to church together. They go to school together. And I can only imagine what the people must have felt like when they basically got screwed by their bank.
They absolutely did. And the thing is that these 2 brothers were the kings of community. Mm-hmm. Everybody loved them. They went to church together. They socialized together. They were neighbors. And they turned on them.
And they did turn on them. And also within the Watterson family.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have Uncle George, who from the beginning was against his nephews. Right. Uncle George was the one who was for the LA thing.
Right.
And the nephews, of course, were leading the community more or less, up to the point where they kidnapped this person and hurt him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Funny that you mentioned Shakespearean. This whole story of the water history of Los Angeles and then leading St. Francis Dam disaster. is a Shakespearean tragedy.
Yes.
Even with William Mulholland,
Yeah.
Rise and Fall.
Yes.
I've always called a Shakespearean tragedy.
Yes.
So here we have another element
Yes.
that we can call that.
I often wonder why somebody hasn't made a movie about the Wattersons and the Owens
It
Valley
deserves
and,
it,
and everything
absolutely.
like that.
Well, they sort of did.
Did they?
But,
Who?
well, Chinatown.
Chinatown.
Oh,
but it's-
China.
yeah,
But they just
yeah.
basically mentioned and
Yeah, they made it.
his
And that was
that
really
really
a
wasn't
fictional-
about this. I mean, I see this as the community is just coming apart because of what the bankers did.
It's true.
I mean, these people had nothing after the
Yeah,
bank closed.
they absolutely
They lost
do.
something
They
like
all had to-
$800,000.
Yeah,
you know?
they lost everything.
They lost everything. So many people had to move away from
That's
here
right.
because they were
They had to
ruined.
leave.
And it took
Yeah.
the whole sale out of the whole water war situation.
Yeah.
Their whole,
Yes.
their
Yeah.
whole struggle of,
Their whole
of
struggle
about 3
died.
years died in this
Yeah.
one day.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
the reason for the struggle died. I mean, let's face it, if you're ruined, you've lost your house,
Right.
your home, whatever,
Right.
there's no reason for you to fight LA or to stay here or
And
anything
there's
like
no
that.
reason to stay here. There's so much heartache here.
Yes, yes,
You know,
yes, yes.
husbands and wives and children, and suddenly they were bankrupt.
Right, here's
And they'd lost their friends. Yeah, it was a horrible thing. Can you imagine?
Can't imagine.
Yeah, another interesting connection between this and the St. Francis. Literally a few months later, after the Wattersons did this and went bankrupt, was the St. Francis Dam disaster.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So it was one thing was
disaster
piling
after
upon
disaster
another
after
thing.
disaster. Our favorite word.
Yeah. And yet, at the same time, we all know that Los Angeles would not be what it is if it wasn't
That's right.
for
That's right.
this whole incredible engineering feat.
One of the most phenomenal civil engineering feats ever.
Ever. So, I mean, it seems like on every level this thing is like hitting a grand slam home run.
It hit spectacular, and it hit the bottom.
Yeah.
And
You know?
it's interesting that the controversy exists to this day
Yes.
as to who was the bad guy and who was the good guy. And
Right.
Depends on who you talk to.
The whole water situation, and then with Los Angeles taking the water from the Owens Valley.
Yeah. But you know, in life, nobody's all good and nobody's all bad.
Right.
I mean, George Watterson wanted to do what he could do for his community, and so did his nephews want to do it
Right.
for the community. And it just turned out poorly for some and good for a whole bunch of people that live about 250 miles south.
Oh, yeah. LA would not be what it is today without the Eastern Sierra
The
water.
whole thing is there were all these battles,
Yes.
but ultimately who won the war? That would be the
Yeah.
question.
Well, that's you know, and I think the answer to that question has to be who won the war was the people of Los Angeles won the war.
Right.
And also, something that has always interested me is I think that the Owens Valley would be incredibly developed because it's a stunningly beautiful place.
Yes.
And it didn't develop, didn't get crowded with people because of
the
the
lack
fact that
of
we
water.
That's right.
That's right.
And
That's
don't
right.
we love this kind of an environment to this day?
It's amazing.
100 years later.
Absolutely.
But then again, as far as controversy, there would be those on the other side that would claim that without
It should be
building,
a big urban situation.
that without the water being taken by Los Angeles, they wouldn't have built the 395 highway. They wouldn't have the tourism that they have.
Right.
So there's just two
sides of everything.
Two sides
isn't
of
there?
everything.
Right.
Probably more than two sides of everything.
And there's a lot of people here in the Owens Valley that are fighting for endangered species and things like that.
sure.
And those endangered species probably wouldn't be endangered. They'd be gone.
That's right. They wouldn't.
So, yeah.
They wouldn't. So
Yeah.
it's been a fascinating, interesting story. I love the fact that you guys came down here with me or up here with me and driving around and telling us the story. And, you know, we all love this area anyway. And so this is just
You
been
know,
a real
it was my pleasure. It was like going home for me.
Oh, that's true, because you're from here. That's
Yeah.
true. That's
Yeah.
true. Well, listen, how about a
A
toast to...
Absolutely.
Who should we toast to?
First, I'd like to toast to George Watterson,
Okay.
who, in the end, ultimately was a success. He
Right.
was accepted by the community.
Right.
He wasn't chased out
He
like
wasn't
they
chased
said they
out.
were going to chase him out.
Right.
Yes, so
Okay.
here's to George.
I would toast to William Mulholland, who's without
Yes.
whose vision and Fred Eaton's vision, none of this would have taken place.
That's true.
That's very
That's true. We wouldn't have any of that history.
Good or bad.
Good or bad.
Good or bad.
And I'm
Yes.
going to toast to the people of the Owens Valley.
Yes.
They're really lucky to have us.
Yes, they truly are. It's a beautiful place.
Okay, you guys.
It's
all right.
a one of a kind.
Thanks again.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So good.
Must have cost $1.
At least.